We will open up the clamp arms. Once those are fully open, then the TE will retract. And you can see on your screen that the clamp arms have begun to open. Looks like they are fully open now, so we should see that TE start to recline just slightly away from Falcon 9. Now the first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is hinged and will retract away from the vehicle in preparation for launch. And the TE should be fully reclined at this point. Now at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene, fuel, and liquid oxygen. Both first stage and second stage should finish loading propellant about a minute apart from each other. First stage finishes up, coming up here shortly at the T-3 minute mark, and second stage should finish around the T-2 minute mark.
Load is complete.
And there's that call out. Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And stage 1 POGO.
That means that propellant loading is complete on the first stage. And again, at the T-2 minute mark, stage 2's propellant loading will complete. Now you see those white clouds on your screen. That is the chilled gas above the liquid oxygen tank liquid surface that we vent out overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. When that gas comes out into the Florida air, the humid, moist air condenses into clouds or water. At T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and just inside the T-minus 2 second mark, we light the Merlin M1D engines for liftoff. The Eutelsat satellite continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the vehicle. We're just waiting for that call out for stage 2 propellant loading completion. So
stage 2 LOX load is complete.
There it is. Stage 2 LOX load complete. That means that Falcon 9's propellant loading is now complete. Weather is still looking good for T0, and the range is ready to support. Now that LOX loading or
gas closeouts.
Propellant loading is now complete on the vehicle, we do vent out the liquid oxygen line on the transporter erector, which you can see there now. That is what those additional white clouds that you're seeing there is, that venting. We are coming up on Falcon 9 in startup in just about 10 seconds. That's where the flight computers take over the launch countdown, but also stage 1 and stage 2 will begin to pressurize for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out. Now we're just waiting for the final call from the launch director.
LD, go for launch.
Awesome news. All systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 carrying the Eutelsat 10B payload.
T-minus 30 seconds. Seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Eutelsat 10B, go 1049. Vehicle's pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Falcon Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying the Eutelsat 10B satellite.
Power and telemetry.
Now, during ascent, the M1D engines will actually swivel and help steer Falcon 9. This is known as gimbal. The rocket autonomously tilts the engines just a few degrees, and this gimbaling allows the vehicle to perform a gravity turn, which is when we go vertical as well as horizontal. Now we're still going up, but we are also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. And we have just heard that we've passed through max Q. That is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees on ascent. Now we will throttle those M1D engines back up on the first stage. This is a really cool tracking view of our Falcon 9 vehicle. Coming up next in about a minute, we will have a few events happening back to back. That will be MECO,
engine chill has started.
MECO, stage separation, and SES1. We just heard that call out that the MVAC engine is chilling. Now, MECO is main engine cutoff. That is where all 9 of the M1D engines shut down on the first stage. That's what you're seeing lit up on your screen there. They will shut down in preparation for stage separation. That's where the first and second stages will separate. Stage 1 will not be landing on today's mission, and stage 2 will continue on its journey to take the Eutelsat 10B satellite to its targeted drop-off orbit. Now those events are coming up here in about 20 seconds.
Main engine cut off.
Stage separation confirmed. Stage 1 FTS is safe.
Ignition.
Great news. We did have MECO stage separation, and there you can see on your screen that MVAC engine has ignited. Now, as a reminder, we are not attempting to land our first stage today, as our mission requires more performance, so it will use up the fuel typically used for landing. Now, coming up next will be fairing separation in a few seconds here. Great live view there of the fairing halves separating from the stage
Fairing
2
separation.
vehicle.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
And there we heard the confirmation call out. We will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves again today once they fall back down to Earth using our recovery ship Doug. Second stage is currently in the middle of its first burn, and our next milestone coming up is second engine cutoff 1, or SECO 1. And that's scheduled to happen in about 4 minutes from now. Now, if you're just joining us, we are currently at T plus 4.5 minutes into today's mission, Eutelsat 10B. So far on the mission, we've had a successful liftoff, MECO, stage separation, SES1, and fairing separation. Again, as a reminder, we did not attempt the landing of our first stage vehicle today, as this mission requires more performance. Again, we will be utilizing all of the fuel inside of the
Stage
vehicle.
2 following a nominal trajectory.
We did utilize all the fuel needed for this mission, so the vehicle is being expended today. Now we're currently in the first burn of 2 planned MVAC burns prior to satellite deployment, and our next major milestone that we have coming up is SECO 1. And we are just under 3 minutes away from SECO 1 on the second stage. That's second stage engine cutoff 1. We did hear that stage 2 is on a nominal trajectory, so good news there. Again, what you're seeing on your screen is a live view on the Falcon 9 second stage, looking at our MVAC engine. Now, the MVAC engine is optimized for 220,500 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. It utilizes liquid oxygen RP1. That's what we fill our vehicles with. And the Merlin vacuum engine also features a larger exhaust section and a significantly larger expansion nozzle, and that's compared to the M1D engines that you see on the first stage vehicle. Now, this is to maximize the engine's efficiency in the vacuum of space. At full power, the Merlin vacuum engine operates with the greatest efficiency ever for an American-made hydrocarbon rocket engine. Again, if you're just now joining us, you are watching the mission for Eutelsat 10B's satellite. And we are just a little over a minute away from SECO 1 on the second stage. Now, prior to liftoff, some of you may have noticed that our second stage looks very similar to first stage. Not only does it look similar, but it also has the same diameter, uses the same metal in the tanks, same computers, same propellant, and nearly the same engine. Now, this allows us to use similar tooling, design, and systems to essentially build two rockets that are more reliable. Again, the next event coming up is SECO 1. This will be the first shutdown of this MVAC engine. We do have two planned burns.
Stage 2 is internal guidance.
We do have two planned burns for this mission to get Eutelsat 10B to its targeted drop-off orbit. And we are just about 20 seconds away.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
About 10 seconds away from SECO 1 on the second stage.
MVAC shut down.
And there we saw that MVAC engine shutting down. We did hear that call out. Now just waiting.
Nominal orbit insertion.
It's exactly what we were waiting for, confirmation of good orbit. And now that we have confirmation of nominal orbital insertion, the second stage is now embarking on its first coast phase. After the coast phase, we will light that MVAC engine for a second time around the T plus 26 minute mark. So we'll see you back here in 17 minutes, and in the meantime, enjoy the views and the space tunes.
signal Bermuda. Acquisition of signal in Gabon.
Welcome back to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying the Eutelsat 10B satellite for our customer Eutelsat. We've had a nominal mission so far. Falcon 9 launched on time at 9:57 p.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40, and Stage 2 has completed its first burn of the Merlin vacuum engine. Now we're about under a few seconds away from that second engine burn on that MVAC engine. This is carrying, there we go. And there it is. You can see SES2 there live on your screen. This is the second burn for this MVAC engine, with the second stage carrying the Eutelsat 10B payload on its way to its targeted drop-off orbit. Now this burn will last just about a minute long. And again, this is the second burn for this mission today. Once the MVAC engine shuts down, the vehicle will be able to coast. And it will coast to its final drop-off orbit for the Eutelsat 10B satellite. Again, we did just have SES2. This burn lasts just a little over a minute and should be shutting down here shortly. And there you could see the MVAC engine shutting down. Now we are just waiting for confirmation of good orbit.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And there it is. Now with confirmation of a successful second burn of the second stage and confirmation of good orbit, the next milestone coming up is payload deploy. So we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. Until then, enjoy the space tunes. welcome back to our webcast of Eutelsat 10B. So far in the mission, we've had an on-time liftoff at 9:57 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by successful ascent, stage separation, and 2 second-stage engine burns. As a reminder, Eutelsat is a world-leading satellite operator. The 10-degree east location that Eutelsat 10B will occupy has been operated by Eutelsat since 1987 and provides unrivaled coverage in the heart of the European, Middle Eastern, and African regions. Now, we are standing by for the deployment of their Eutelsat 10B satellite, which we expect here in just a few seconds.
Payload deploy confirmed.
An incredible view. You are watching the Eutelsat 10B satellite drifting away from Falcon 9's second stage. Now this confirms confirmation.
Signal Maldives.
This confirms confirmation of deployment of the payload. So with that, we're going to end our launch broadcast for tonight. All of us here at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer Eutelsat for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a shout out to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. And as I mentioned earlier, today's launch concludes our 185th Falcon 9 mission to date and 53rd launch this year. Thanks to all of our viewers for tuning in and your continued support. Have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.